Imagine waking up in the morning. You stretch, get out of bed, and walk down the hallway to make a cup of coffee. But before you even put on your shoes, you've just crossed an international border. This is the daily reality for everyone living in the European town of Baarle. You might picture an international boundary as a tall fence or a military checkpoint. But here, the dividing line between Belgium and the Netherlands is simply a series of white crosses painted right onto the pavement. That line cuts across sidewalks, divides parking spaces, and slices straight through outdoor cafes. We usually assume national borders are hard barriers meant to keep things apart, but Baarle shows how a frontier can be woven directly into the fabric of a single neighborhood. The town isn't cleanly split down the middle, like a north side and a south side. Instead, it looks like a piece of glass that has shattered into dozens of jagged fragments. This map shows the town's boundaries. You can see 22 separate pieces of Belgian land called enclaves, completely surrounded by Dutch territory. It gets stranger. There are 8 smaller chunks of Dutch land nested entirely inside those Belgian pieces, like Russian nesting dolls. This layout is a living fossil. It is the direct result of various land swaps, treaties, and property sales between medieval feudal lords way back in the 12th century. When you can cross a national boundary just by walking to the end of your street, things get complicated fast. Which country's laws do you follow? Who collects your income tax? And which school district applies? Without a definitive rule to sort out who belongs to which country, a town with this many intersecting lines should logically collapse into total administrative chaos. To keep the town running smoothly, the two countries agreed on a practical solution. They call it the front door rule. The rule works exactly like it sounds. A household's official nationality is determined completely by which country its front door opens onto. The location of that single doorway dictates your tax rates, your civil services, and your school district. It applies even if your living room or kitchen stretches right across the borderline into the neighboring nation. While that clears things up for almost everyone, there is one famous house in town that tests the system. Here, the physical borderline passes exactly through the center of the threshold. The town solved this edge case with a rather literal fix. They assigned the building 2 separate house numbers, one for the Netherlands and one for Belgium, complete with 2 different doorbells. The front door rule resolves these overlapping boundaries by providing a single, clear point of reference. It makes a situation that looks absurd on a map entirely manageable for the people living there. A single rule doesn't eliminate the day-to-day realities of having 2 sovereign local governments operating in the exact same space. The town has 2 sets of mayors, 2 town halls, and 2 police forces. This creates unique headaches for civil services. If a crime takes place inside a house that sits on the border, deciding which police force responds depends entirely on which side of the room the incident happened. To make sure people are actually protected, local Dutch and Belgian authorities created strict cooperation agreements. They share databases and communicate constantly so they can respond to emergencies without stopping to check a map first. For the residents, jumping between 2 legal systems is just part of doing chores. A person might receive their morning mail under Belgian rules, then walk across the street to buy their groceries under Dutch law. Living this way requires flexibility. Many locals hold dual citizenship, carrying both passports. And when asked where they are from, they often prefer to simply call themselves Baarlaren, people of Baarle. They share a daily experience that outsiders rarely understand. Navigating those intersecting lines has built a tight-knit community identity that easily overrides the formal national labels assigned to them. A combination of human cooperation and the front door rule allows this community to function smoothly despite its overlapping boundaries. The residents have relied on adaptability and a shared sense of humor to turn a logistical tangle into a peaceful home. Today, the biggest challenge to Baarle's unique setup isn't a border dispute, but European Union standardization. As trade laws and regulations become uniform across Europe, the practical economic differences between living on the Belgian side or the Dutch side are slowly disappearing. The painted crosses and bronze commemorative plaques on the ground are now maintained more as protected historical monuments and tourist attractions rather than strictly enforced legal barriers. Looking at Baarle, it makes you wonder about the very nature of countries. If an entire town can function seamlessly while living directly on top of an international frontier, how rigid are these boundaries, really? We often treat borders as if they are natural laws of geography, but in reality, they are simply imaginary lines that we all collectively agree to believe in. Baarle shows that while lines on a map might technically separate nations, they do not have to separate the people living there.